Imagine a creature so desperate to stay alive that it literally throws its own internal organs at an attacker. It sounds like a scene from a gruesome science fiction movie, but this is just a Tuesday in the deep ocean. While most of us are used to animals that run, hide, or bite, there is a secret corner of the natural world where survival involves breaking the very laws of biology. These are the weirdest ways animals defend themselves, and they reveal that nature is far more outrageous and cunning than we ever imagined. Most people assume that nature is a simple game of predator versus prey, where the biggest teeth or the fastest legs always win. But in the dark, crushing pressure of the deep sea, or the competitive, outrageous laboratory of the rainforest, the standard rules of survival do not apply. When you are small, soft-bodied, or flabby, you cannot rely on brute strength. Instead, evolution has pushed life to its absolute limits, rewarding creatures that have developed extreme solutions to stay off the menu. We often project our own human logic onto these behaviors, but the data suggests that what looks like a biological glitch is actually a finely tuned adaptation that has passed the ultimate screening test over millions of years. To understand how these bizarre defenses work, we have to look at the hardware these animals are using. Take the hagfish, a long, eel-like creature that is one of the strangest vertebrate relatives alive. When a predator tries to take a bite, the hagfish doesn't fight back with teeth. Instead, it releases a thick, sticky mucus from hundreds of pores along its body. In seawater, this slime expands almost instantly, clogging the predator's gills and forcing it to retreat in a state of suffocating panic. But here is the kicker. To avoid getting trapped in its own defensive mess, the hagfish ties its body into a literal knot and slides through the loop to scrape the slime off. It is a biological hack that turns a potential death sentence into a slippery escape. Then there is the bombardier beetle, a small insect that defends itself with a literal chemical explosion. Inside its abdomen, it stores two separate chemical compounds in different chambers. When threatened, it mixes them in a reaction chamber filled with catalytic enzymes. The result is a sudden blast of boiling hot liquid sprayed directly at the attacker. This spray isn't just hot, it's accompanied by an audible popping sound that adds a psychological shock to the physical burn. This is highly complex biological engineering in a package smaller than a grape, proving that defense doesn't always depend on size. We can see the weirdness escalate when we look at creatures that use calculated sacrifice as a defense. Certain lizards have evolved a process called autonomy, where they deliberately detach their own tails when grabbed. The tail breaks off along specialized fracture points in the bone, and then it begins to twitch and thrash violently on the ground. While the predator instinctively focuses on the wriggling tail, the lizard slips away into safety. It is a high-stakes trade-off. The animal sacrifices a part of its body, including its fat reserves, to preserve the whole. This is a prime example of the body's incredible capacity for resilience and reorganization. Even more dramatic is the sea cucumber, which moves so slowly that speed is an impossible advantage. When attacked, it can eject portions of its own internal organs through its body wall. These long, sticky filaments entangle the predator, creating a confusing noodle trap that allows the sea cucumber to crawl away. What looks like a fatal injury is just a temporary loss. Over the next few weeks, the animal completely regenerates its lost organs and returns to normal activity. It is a form of biological outsourcing, where the recovery process is more valuable than permanent protection. But perhaps the most disturbing defense mechanisms come from the field of neuroparasitology, where one animal hacks the brain of another. There are wasps that inject their eggs into a living caterpillar, only for the larvae to emerge and form cocoons. To protect these vulnerable cocoons, one or two larvae remain inside the caterpillar and somehow take control of its behavior. The caterpillar, now a zombie bodyguard, stops eating and spends its final days aggressively fighting off any predator that approaches the wasp cocoons. This mind-controlled defense challenges our entire understanding of agency and the tethered mind. The twist in this story is that these weird defenses aren't just random acts of nature. They are often based on direct perception and the ability to understand a predator's intention. Animals aren't just reacting, they are building a model of the threat. Some deep-sea creatures, like the vampire squid, have realized that ink is useless in total darkness. So instead, they release glowing mucus that creates a cloud of bioluminescence, disorienting predators that rely on light-sensing superpowers. These animals have essentially engineered their own versions of high-tech defense systems. This reveal challenges the idea that evolution is always moving toward simpler or cleaner solutions. Sometimes the most successful path to survival is the one that is messy, broken, and completely counterintuitive. Whether it's the immortal jellyfish resetting its biological clock to escape injury, or the bodyguard caterpillar being beguiled by a parasite, these behaviors show that the natural world is a fascinating labyrinth of survival strategies that we are only just beginning to decode. The mystery of these animal defenses is a symbol of the 90% of the ocean that remains unexplored and the undiscovered voices still waiting in the dark. It makes you wonder, if a sea cucumber can rebuild its entire life from a pile of ejected guts, what does that say about the true limits of resilience? We live in a world where we are sensory impaired compared to the magnanimous animal kingdom, and these glitches are reminders that nature always has another trick up its sleeve. If you could borrow one of these weird animal defenses for just one day, which one would it be? And what is the one awkward social situation you would use it to get out of? Let me know your most creative ideas in the comments below, and tell me if you think these strategies are a biological feature or a bug.